Hey, folks. Welcome to the Welcome to Happy podcast. We went to Oogie Boogie Bash this weekend, and we're first timers. We have some surprises. We'll share them with you.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. I'm Chris. This is my lovely co-host, Shannon. Shannon, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm excited to talk about Oogie Boogie.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so tell them a little bit about what we did this past week.
We took a road trip to Disneyland and we attended our first ever Oogie Boogie Bash.
That is right. First timers. So, some people might think, you got a Disneyland podcast. You guys are experts. We are not experts. I like to think we're Disneyland enthusiasts. So some of these things we still approach with a new sense of wonder and awe and childlike enjoyment. That sounded weird. Anyways, so we're first timers. We went out there. We read up, a few blogs, a few tips, and this and that to try to make sure we were tackling it the right way. But you got to go and experience it for yourself. So there's going to be new things. So today's top 5 is going to be the top 5 Oogie Boogie Bash surprises for first timers. Things that you might not expect. So without much further ado,
let's get started.
Number 5.
Usually I go first, Shannon. Let's mix it up today. Let's get crazy. Let's have you start out each of these number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2.
Okie doke.
Yeah. So number 5 for you.
So I wouldn't say mine are necessarily surprises, but they're just things that I really enjoyed and appreciated out of our weekend. But number 5 was the costumes people had. So I did read, like, most people dress up. You might be, feeling left out if you don't do that. So we did some Monsters, Inc. fun. Hopefully you can put a photo somewhere here. But, oh my goodness, there were some amazing costumes. There were some adorable costumes. Nothing's cuter than kids dressed as Disney, by the way.
Absolutely. And you breezed right by our Monsters, Inc. Costumes as a family. Shannon was a fantastic... Who were you? Roz from Monsters, Inc.
Watching you.
I was wondering when you're going to do the voice. And that's like 50% of the voice. She really gets into it for about 3 weeks before we went.
At a prep.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I wore a Mike Wazowski shirt and a hat, and it was okay. But,
okay.
Our son was the true MVP. So anyways, go ahead.
Yes, our son was Sully, and he didn't want to buy a costume. He wanted to make his own. So we got to make that, and we were pretty cute.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but just, again, the amount of effort and time that people put into some of these costumes was just absolutely crazy and fun to see. There were the Sanderson sisters, which I think was my favorite, and they looked right out of the movie. And then obviously, like, there was a lot of Monster Inc., but there were some really cute Toy Stories and villains that I didn't even know who they were. Had to, like, Google them to see what they were. But just a lot of really cool originality, and the homemade ones that people took some extra time and effort to put together just really added to the fun and excitement of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. All right. So, getting around to my top 5, the number 5 thing that I was surprised at was, again, I mentioned that we you read the blog articles and you see the little social media posts, and one thing that was a consistent message was, hey, listen, you're gonna need a huge bag because you get so much candy at the treat trails. And the bag that they give you isn't very big, and you're just you're gonna be overwhelmed with candy. And I feel like that was a consistent message that was there. And not to say that they don't give you a lot of candy, but I think it was oversold. So, I actually have some right here. So if you're watching us, you can see this, but if you're just listening at home, it's probably about the size of like a small or a medium popcorn bag if you go to the movies. That they give you at the gate when you're getting your wristband and everything like that. So it's probably not enough to hold a ton of candy. You're going to want something bigger. But what did we bring? We brought not like pillow sacks, but they were just about as big. We were like over prepared.
Yeah, we brought some big recyclable, reusable bags, and they were
Yeah, absolutely. And we, to our credit, how many treat trails do you think we did?
not that many
Yeah.
compared to other people.
Yeah, so if you're a huge treat trail fan, maybe this is a bit more true. But for me, it was you get a lot of candy. You get some. What was the type of candy that they're handing out? So
It was
you
like
get
Mars and Wrigley. So you got
Yeah.
like Skittles, Twix, lots of different types of M&Ms, every kind of M&M you can imagine. They gave out sun chips. They gave out carrots,
Yeah.
bags of carrots,
That's
bags
right.
of apples, goldfish, Mickey goldfish. They gave out some little Rice Krispie treats. I'm sure they had some other things on other trails that we didn't.
Yeah.
get,
So
but-
yeah, they got the greatest hits. They got some new things in there. Some like fudge M&Ms, some peanut butter M&Ms. There was some. What was it? Cold brew,
like a mocha cold brew.
caramel
Yeah,
M&Ms or
not
something
ours.
like that. So they got those, and then they're trying to stay a little bit healthy with sun chips and carrots and everything. So yeah. So if it's your first time and you're reading the same thing and you're thinking that you're going to have to carry around 10 pounds of candy, not so much. But they definitely give you a good amount. You get your money's worth.
And they were able to offer ones for allergies, like gluten allergies or, stuff like that. So you can still go through the treat trails if you have dietary restrictions.
There you go. So, all right, moving on.
Number 4.
So the exclusivity of the event was pretty cool. We've never been to an after-hour event there where they close the park and it's just whoever had purchased tickets. So I don't know what I was expecting, but it was nice not being so crowded and bumping into people, and the lines for things weren't crazy long. I was expecting still a lot more waiting and, trying to get into the parade and that kind of stuff. So not only just the exclusivity of it, but I was pretty impressed how they weeded people out when it was time to close the park to people who weren't attending the event.
Yeah.
It was very smooth. It was very friendly. They didn't have to be
It was.
aggressive towards people to get out. You almost didn't even notice it. They just slowly were like, "Oh, you got a wristband to go
Form
past here."
lines, human
Yeah.
lines somewhere, and
Yeah,
then they
but
check wristbands as you go on.
It's definitely an art to try to do that, and I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. And I had this as one of my honorable mentions, was just the decreased crowds are definitely an advantage. And it doesn't necessarily seem so in the center areas with the treat trails and the main walkways, because everyone's there doing the same thing. But especially, if you're trying to get on some rides or something like that, you're not waiting long. And I felt conflicted, right? Because it's like, you could go on the rides and there's no wait, but you've also done these rides dozens of times before. So except for I always screw up the name. I still call it Tower of Terror.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. That's what I was
Or
searching for.
Monsters After Dark.
Or Monsters After Dark. So tell us about Monsters After Dark.
So there wasn't a long wait for those. This is might be an unpopular opinion, but I didn't care for it as much as the daytime one. So at 3:00, they transition to this Monsters After Dark, and it's a whole different theme. Monsters have taken over, and it's this thing. I didn't care for it. I still
Yeah,
love the ride
it's-
because it's still you drop and think you're
You
about
go
to
up, you
die.
go
That's still exciting and fun. But the screen is different, so what you see, it's Rocket going to rescue Groot. So it's a little bit different, and the music is a lot different.
Yeah, it's definitely more metal.
Intense. Yeah, it's metal. It was very intense. But again,
Good time. It's different.
It's different.
It mixes it up. All right. Great. My number 4. Let's see. My number 4 surprise was how cool the Villain's Grove is in the Redwood Creek Trail. So this is one that we read about beforehand. Hey, don't miss it. Be sure that you carve out some time to hit the Villain's Grove. And I really wasn't quite sure what to expect, because you hear that they have the theme for each of the villains, but the villains aren't actually there in character. So how do they represent the villains without being there? It's one big. It was the biggest surprise to me was the transformation from daytime to nighttime. So we go there all the time. Our son loves to run around there. That's where we just kind of hang out. If you listen to the top 5 ways to stay cool, you know, there's lots of tall redwoods, lots of shade. You can just, you know, hang out there, have a good time. It's very mellow. At night, it's like this wonderland of themes and lights and mist and really cool stuff. And you just kind of come out of there, and especially as you're approaching the end, you feel like you're dying and approaching the gates of heaven or something like that. Maybe we can include a little video or something like that of what it looks like in the YouTube show. But yeah, I was just kind of surprised at how cool it was. And you get through it. There's no point to it, really. There's no like objective. There's no meet and greet. You don't get candy. You just go and it's cool. And that's it.
I think so this was my number one.
All right.
Because
Shortcut.
that's how amazing it was. But it's just, it's that Disney magic. They take this space and they totally transform it. You wouldn't even know it was the same space if you didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And just the use of lights and lasers and the mist and the music and just all of that all put together. Each section really had a different feel and look as it was representing the different villains and that kind of stuff. And as Chris touched on at the end, it's just like mind-blowing. You have to be like, okay, what's going on right now? Where am I?
Yeah.
Because you do almost like, that's what I imagine, like when I pass, like that's what it's going to look like. And then you just walk through into this mist. You can't see the other side, and whatever your belief is, I think that's whatever your transition is to whatever that might be. But it was really cool.
There you go. Getting really ethereal and
Yes.
spiritual.
Number 1.
Shortcutting to Shannon's number 1. We haven't really ironed out how we're gonna handle when we step on each other's choices, because we don't share them beforehand, and because we don't want to. We want to get each other's opinion that's not influenced by the others. And so
I
yeah.
jumped in because I didn't
Yeah.
want to like bring it back up later. So it
Yeah.
just felt like the right time.
Spoiler alert, I'm going to do that. Anyways, moving on.
Number 3.
Number 3, top
Number
surprise for Oogie Boogie Bash,
3.
Shannon.
I enjoyed the parade. I like to think I'm a parade person, but I'm not, but I am, but I'm not. I don't like the waiting and stuff. The wait, so as a family, we went to the first showing of the parade, and then Chris and his sister went on a ride, and so Grayson and he wanted to go back to see the parade again, so we went to the second parade. Everyone's like, do this parade, don't do that parade. Blah, blah, blah. I found that there was not a huge crowd at either of them.
Yeah, that was a pretty consistent blog recommendation was, hey, do the first or do the second, or there's no difference between the two. Our experience was there wasn't much difference between the two.
Yeah, and I mean, we weren't on the main road, the Buena Vista road. We were on the little like Hollywood segment down there, so the parade comes down and then wraps around there. So maybe that's why it wasn't
Yeah.
so busy down there.
And what I've heard is that it's not so much about even the parade as much is about like the alternative of what you're gonna do when everyone's at the parade. So if you go later, it seems silly that people would spend this much money and then leave early, but some people do leave before the event. So if you go to the first parade, so you can go on rides and treat trails during the second parade, then you have less competition there, if that makes sense. I don't know. So
Yeah, we stumbled into the Ernesto de la Cruz treat trail, which was right there on our way to that second one, and there was maybe 5 people in line for that during that second parade timing. So that might be true that there's less people and they're all watching the parade, so you have time to go. But anyways, the parade was awesome. The Headless Horseman portion I thought was super cool. Not a fan of the foaming horse. The
there you
horse
go.
has mouth foaming. They give it something to make it do that as an animal
I
person.
think so that's something that was interesting. So by the way, fast forward, my number 3 was actually about the Headless Horseman at the beginning of the parade, and just the gap that they have between the Headless Horseman and the parade, right? So you're lined up there, you're waiting for the parade, everyone's excited. Oh, here comes the announcement, and the Headless Horseman's coming. It's this big, they really nail the atmosphere, and he comes down. And then the Headless Horseman passes. Then you're like, okay, well, let's start the parade. Let's go. And it's still like another 15 minutes. Then and some people came by and they were mopping up like horse mouth foam off of the streets. I know that sounds really gross. And so getting back to this, I have seen some things online where the Headless Horseman's coming down and the horse is okay. Ours came by and he was like really like foaming at the mouth. And I don't know if this was a special effect or if it was really just warm that day. And the horse, if this is just a horse thing, I'm not a horse guy. I don't know if this is normal. But that was weird. And so I don't know if it was extra long because they needed to clean that up, or if that's normal to have that large of a gap in between the Headless Horseman and the parade. So
because it did kind of, you get excited and it builds it up, and then you're like, yeah, and then nothing, and you're
exactly.
like, what's going on? So you've got to like rebuild up that excitement. But once the rest of the parade did happen, I thought it was pretty cool. A lot of the villains that you don't normally see. I personally really enjoyed Ursula on there, and then just all the Nightmare Before Christmas characters that had pieces in there. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Grayson loved it so much that we went twice. But definitely a must see if you're there and spend the money to go.
Yeah, it's a great time. And the reason I mention it is my number 3 is just if you want to get a good seat there early. A lot of times, if you want to get something on the curb or a bench, definitely get there, I don't know, 20 minutes before the parade start time, maybe more if you want a bench or a prime spot. But if you just want to see the parade, feel free to get there like 15 minutes afterwards and after like the posted start time. And you'll probably be okay if that gap between the Headless Horseman and the rest of the parade is normal. Moving on.
Number 2.
There we go.
There we go. My number 2 was the treat trails. Not necessarily the amount of candy or anything like that you got, but just the cool opportunity to see the characters. So it wasn't like your traditional like character meet and greet where they're standing there and you come up and take a picture and that kind of stuff. They were, roped off behind you, but they were interacting and engaging with the audience as a whole. We didn't hit all of them, just you can't do everything when you go, so you really have to pick and choose. But we did do Oogie Boogie, which was amazing to see him. Again, Grace and I went twice. So
Yeah, he was definitely cool. And of course, he's the headliner, right?
Yeah.
So longest line for Oogie Boogie. You'll probably want to do that either first or like later in the night once the crowd died down.
yeah, but they go fast. The lines, or at least for
Yeah.
us for the treat trails, all went pretty quickly. So Oogie Boogie was cool, and then Cruella de Vil I thought was really cool.
Yeah, she was one of my favorites.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was surprised. Cruella, and I just read beforehand, oh, this character's here, this character's there. I was expecting the standard Cruella de Vil that you see walking around Disneyland, but she was not. She was the newer one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I was waiting
you were
for you
just
to...
going with
Yeah,
it. So it was the newer one, which was exciting because it kind of pulled in from the movie, and the background was a little like, artsy, creative, fun. The music was cool.
Yeah. And I liked her vibe a lot more
Yeah.
than you get because Cruella, if you see her going around Disneyland, she's got the, hey, I'm Cruella de Vil. I'm a little sassy and curt and rude and that's the thing. But yeah, the new one, the new Cruella from the new movie has a more, I don't know, it's just a richer character.
Yes. And the original Cruella was on the float at the parade.
Yes.
So you can see them
You
both.
can see them both,
If
new
you
and
want.
old.
But she was really cool. And then we went to see Judge Doom.
Yes, Judge Doom was, I
From
think
Roger
I might have
Rabbit.
said Cruella was my favorite. Judge Doom was my favorite.
One of
Yeah.
the really cool pieces with the Judge Doom, it's cool, right? It's new. We haven't seen him there before. But he interacted and engaged with our child and had a whole conversation trying to recruit him. So that was a really cool experience as well.
That was cool. I mean, some of them, like Oogie Boogie, you think, okay, they're on a loop of commentary and what have you. But yeah, with Cruella, Judge Doom, they vamp, they improv, and it was really cool just to get, see our son interacting with this huge villainous figure. And I was impressed how he stood up to him. I didn't know. I thought for an 8-year-old, he might be like just freaked out. But
Right.
no, he had a very casual conversation with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so again, Tree Trails loved. Again, you do need a bigger bag because that little one just won't hold regular, but you don't need to go crazy. The lines went pretty quickly, so don't be discouraged by the lines. And again, you won't have time to do all of them, so pick and choose which ones are most important to hit up.
And one other note about Judge Doom, I hear a shoe meets his fate in the dip every 5 or 10 minutes or so. We did not witness that, but noticed lots of people hanging around there probably looking for that photo op.
And he was telling us to go.
Yeah. And that's the thing is they're so cool. And I'm Mr. like photo and everything with the camera, and then we got our other camera and video, and I'm trying to get like good video and pictures of stuff, and it's like you just got to keep moving. They really move you through there at a good clip. So if you do want to get posed, you want to get a good shot, or you just want general good content about it, be ready to even forego the candy and forget the bag. I'm hitting my computer here. Forget the bag and just focus on that if that's your main priority there, because it's really hard to get the candy, to walk, to do both, to get all the good stuff.
Oh, one more thing. So the treat trails again are pretty cool because there's people handing out candy every 20 feet maybe.
Yeah.
So it's not like you get a handful of candy, go through the thing, and you're done. They're like throughout the whole thing. And some people will give you handfuls. Some people will give you just one. I think it depends on who's where.
And that's what we hear, like, oh, they just give you handfuls of them. Most of mine, like, they give you a couple pieces of candy, 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, I think it just depends on who you get.
Yeah. And it's kind of arbitrary. It's like, why break it up just to make the line, make something happen every, 15 feet or so. So yeah, and then moving on, we flip-flop 5 and 2, and my number 2 was how many people dressed up for the event and how cool their costumes were. So won't rehash all that stuff, but I was definitely surprised. I thought we'd be like one of 20% of people who dress up there. I would say it was the opposite. It was 80-20 the other way. Like 80% of people are dressed up, and I don't know if it was just our night. It was a weekend night, so maybe more people were a little bit more, and when I say weekend, it's Sunday night, more prone to dress up. But it was really cool to see everybody's costumes, see how all out they go, and I thought that would be more of an occurrence as you approach Halloween. People would get into it, and especially when we went early. We went September 10th was our date, and people were still like rocking that Halloween spirit. They were really into it. So
I feel like for next year, don't push a button yet. I feel like for next year, we threw our costumes together in a week. So I think like for next year, if we plan months ahead, we can really step up our game.
Yeah, definitely. And I can push the buttons whenever I want. So
Really? The wrong one?
I immediately regret this decision.
All right. Final choice for the top Oogie Boogie Bash surprises for first timers. Number 1.
I already did mine.
That's right. You did. Talk about anticlimactic. Okay. We already went over Shannon's number 1. My number 1 is probably just an overarching takeaway from this whole event. And for me, that was how much you need a game plan to take advantage of what you need or what you want to take advantage of. And then a corollary of that is how you feel like you have to go back again.
Yes.
Right? Because you go and you do this and you do that. And especially as first, if you're pros, maybe you got this down. Maybe you kind of have your process and you know how to hit everything and get what you want out of it. For first timers, especially, even though we did our homework, we were prepared, we knew vaguely some of the things we wanted to do, I left feeling like we needed to go back later in the year. And they're sold out now.
They're sold out.
They're sold out.
Yeah.
So you can't. And even if we did, it's a pretty penny. So, and then, a takeaway, another sort of, I don't know what you want. I use the word corollary again. It's going to make me seem like my vocabulary is limited. Another corollary of that was we went, again, as I said, September 10th. And I thought that we were going to have a pretty cool down experience. So again, we come from Arizona. We're no strangers to the heat. I thought September, maybe we're in the high 70s, low 80s. We went there. It was 95 degrees on September 10th in Anaheim. Now, granted, we had a little heat spike. That's probably not the typical temperature there. But again, that's another thing leading me to feel like I need to go back and take better advantage, is like just going when it's cooler. And especially if you're closer to Halloween, you get that feeling. So not only just that we didn't do it right the first time, but I feel like we got to go back and do it again just because it was so hot. There's so many, I felt so bad for all the people there just draped in polyester. in 95-degree heat earlier in the day. Yeah, it was rough. But yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just if we had to redo it, I would go later in the month. But we did want to go early on so that if there was anything cool or whatever, we could have a relevant podcast.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, this is
So
over
we
in
could
a
do
week.
this. We did it for
We
you
did it
guys.
for you. We suffered.
We sat through the blazing heat.
Right.
Yes.
But I think we could do like end of September next year or something.
Yeah.
But no, definitely so much fun. If you haven't been and it's within your means, definitely try to go. Again, plan early. Chris got us tickets, I think the first day it sold out.
Yeah. Well, this year was weird. They had the initial opening, and then there was just technical issues with the queue, and then they reopened it. But main takeaway is sold out fast. Probably will sell out first day most years going forward.
And you cannot resell your tickets. So no going into this, if you get tickets, they're your tickets. You can gift them to someone, but you can't resell them. A lot of resellers bought a ton of tickets, and then they were trying to sell them everywhere. And
technically some people probably got away with it, but you don't want to roll that dice. You don't want to roll the dice.
You get like
on that.
blacklisted from Disneyland. That's
Especially if you're an annual pass holder and you're selling your tickets. Rumor has it that they nixed some people's passes. I don't know if it's true or not. Just telling you what I heard.
Yeah. Because I almost had a work thing pop up, so I was like, oh, maybe we can switch dates and buy some other tickets, and then that's just not
gonna
legal
happen.
thing.
Okay, all right. So that's about it. Overall, great time. Can't wait to do it again next year. I'd probably go again closer to Halloween if we could, but we can't. So we gotta wait. Hopefully, you guys are able to get out there as well. Of all the extracurricular after-hours activities. I think this is obviously one of the headliners throughout the year. So, all right, Shannon, anything to say to our lovely listeners before we go home? Parting words of wisdom.
Parting words. Well, they're not parting words, but we do have a couple of videos and photos and stuff from Oogie Boogie Bash on our Instagram. So make sure that you like and follow us there as well to see more up-to-date live content sometimes.
You bet. Instagram and YouTube channel as well. We got a whole bunch of stuff. I just got to get off my butt and edit it. I'm going to hopefully do it this weekend and get it out there to start putting out more consistent content there. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll see you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Disneyland has now ended its normal operating day. We hope you've enjoyed your visit to the Magic Kingdom and that the memories you've made will bring you back again soon.